Hello and welcome everyone to On Point Technologies and PCM webinar Wednesday. We are thrilled to have you with us for Microsoft webinar, which is Need More for Your Microsoft Partner, Get More with PCM's Microsoft Complete. Joining us today is our very own Wes Bishop, who is Manager PCM Microsoft Business Unit. We are going to get right into our main presentation in just a few minutes. But first, I have a few housekeeping items. Please enter your questions in the question box on the right-hand side, and I will relay those to our speakers this morning at the end of the presentation. We do send out a survey at the end of the webinar. Please fill it out and let us know how we did, as well as topic you'd like to see covered in future. You should see that survey in your inboxes later today. Speaking of future webinars, please be sure to check out weekly webinar schedule on our website at www.onpoint.com/webinars. We are also recording this webinar, which will be available for playback within the next few days. Recordings are posted to our webinar page along with our upcoming webinar schedule. And with that, we are going to go right into our main presentation. I am happy to hand it off to our main speaker, Wes Bishop, who is Manager PCM Microsoft Business Unit. Wes, you're on now.
Thank you, Norman. Good afternoon, or good morning in some cases, good afternoon. My name is Wes Bishop. I manage the Microsoft Solutions Executive Group here at PCM. Happy to be with you today. Today I'm going to be introducing, or in some cases reintroducing, our Microsoft Complete program, which is unknown to some of you and well known to some of you, as we've had some remarkable successes with our approach to helping customers manage and get the most out of their Microsoft estate. Today we're going to talk specifically to our methodology in detail, and also how we've kind of separated ourselves from some of the other solutions partners in a lot of very unique ways. And again, in some areas where we're seeing a lot of success in the market. I want to go into some details on that. Perhaps first, it's probably worth noting that Microsoft's made a number of changes in the last 12 months. Many of these have made a material impact to many of you and on most organizations. Whether or not that impact is positive or negative certainly is subject to opinion, but it's also subject to your own ability and your partner's ability to give you advanced awareness of these changes, set the right expectations of what they mean, provide you the cost implications, and deployment and implementation support on some of these emerging technologies. A lot of these that you're seeing on the screen, again, just in the last 12 months have been fairly disruptive in the market, but we've got some very specific examples, some of which I'll go over today, of ways that we've helped customer kind of navigate these rapid changes to their own benefit. So we're going to go into that specifically throughout the presentation, but I do want us to kind of pause and kind of ask you to ask yourself, what are your expectations from a Microsoft partner? And when you really stop and think about that, and I've asked customers and clients, prospective clients, that over the years, and the current expectation kind of seems to be, we expect our Microsoft partner to handle our Microsoft transactions seamlessly and efficiently and accurately, and that's about it. And I think that served the market well up to a point, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, but I think very recently Microsoft has made such broad and impactful dynamic changes that really the expectation should be moving forward from the partner community. Quite frankly, Microsoft's expecting it to change, and we're expecting it to change. And so I want to kind of walk through some of those expectations, and again, just have you think to yourself within your own relationships with partners, what your experience has been. So first of all is advocacy, and I consider this a big deal, and the reason why is one advantage to an increasingly complex Microsoft licensing model is that there actually is room to be creative now in modeling different licensing scenarios. No longer is it a one-size-fits-all approach. A good partner should be able to show you within any given scenario 2 or 3 different either licensing scenarios or just solutions that accomplish the same end. In days past, it would be, we lived in this kind of on-premise perpetual licensing world where, it was kind of, we were giving dollars per SKUs and that was about it. But when we think about advocacy, no longer can a partner a partner shouldn't be expected to just be a mouthpiece or a shill for Microsoft. Our role in advocacy is actually taking your best outcomes in mind and presenting those to Microsoft and in fact negotiating with them in some cases. And we'll talk more about that on down the road. So that advocacy is one major expectation. Obviously providing regular updates on Microsoft solutions. I'll give some specifics here. The job is, the expectation shouldn't be just passing Microsoft's Marcom through our email server onto you and just making announcements. That's probably happening at every level, but it's giving you the why behind the what and kind of the so what factor. And a good example would be last year Microsoft announcing its change from Windows Server processor to core pricing, to the core model. Not only did we get out in front of that and provide that information to customers, but throughout the year and in the past and now, we are actively going in and helping customers do server asset inventory to determine their core counts and give them price modeling, even if their renewal is a year out, year and a half, giving them price modeling as to what they can expect at renewal or at the time for a new Windows Server purchase. The scenarios that have come out of that are anything from early renewal or early purchasing to maybe moving some of those server workloads to Azure, in the cloud. So that's an example of, again, not just broadcasting information. That's fairly easy, but being able to give you the what to do about it insight is a very, very important expectation from a partner. Obviously, understanding your business, I think that's stated a lot, but I also think it's understated a lot. And here's why I think this is such a big deal, and I hope you do too, particularly with Microsoft. Microsoft, a typical Microsoft contract is a 3-year term. And in fact, it's fairly rigid within those 3 years. So it's important for any technology partner to understand, in any line of business, to understand your business objectives and goals, long-term strategies. But with Microsoft particularly, there can be decisions and things made on day one without taking the full 3 or even 6, 9-year picture into account. Mistakes can get made to a huge impact to a customer. So again, I'll talk specifically as we go, our way of kind of understanding that, our methodology to deliver on that expectation of understanding your business needs. But I just want to call out that if I want you to think if that's kind of being done now, and if you're being presented Microsoft scenarios with the end in mind, and that's a pretty important expectation. Finally, even if your partner kind of gives you the what and can help understand and understand your goals and is providing you the roadmaps and updates, if that partner doesn't have the resources available to help you, implement on a solution or a licensing model, then obviously it's not going to get you very far. What we've done over the last 2 or 3 years has been unheard of in terms of Microsoft growth, us growing our Microsoft practice, over the last 2 or 3 years compared to some of the other LSPs out there. So not only, again, there was not too long ago a Microsoft partner could have kind of helped you accomplish what you wanted to accomplish just by having a handful of licensing specialists on board who knew the ins and outs of the Microsoft rules and licensing. Nowadays, you've got to have so much more than that, and we do, and I'll give specifics of that. But for example, you can hardly have an Azure conversation without having a resource on hand to help you assess the current server workloads and make recommendations as to the future footprint, whether it be Azure or on-prem. So in our case, if we're having that discussion, we're likely having it with a server or a Azure specialist, and then working with a licensing specialist to create the right licensing scenario based on that footprint. Likewise, SQL analytics. It's not only difficult but almost impossible to have a accurate SQL licensing discussion unless there have been some SQL analytics and optimization done on the front end to kind of carve out what that need is going to be. So it's no longer a licensing discussion. It's no longer a dollar per SKU discussion. It really is a solutions-based discussion that Microsoft has put onto the partners to make sure that we're delivering for you. So as we go forward from here, I'm definitely going to add a lot of color to these expectations, and hopefully what we've taken away from the last 5 minutes is that the expectation should definitely go up from who you're talking to about your Microsoft estate. So first I want to kind of talk about, just kind of baseline who we are in our life and where we are in our life of our Microsoft practice. And first of all is acceleration and growth. So we are the fastest growing Microsoft partner actually over the last 2 years. So of the handful of Microsoft LSPs, we're the fastest growing. We're a $1 billion business now when you consider systems integration and device resell. And that year over year, Microsoft is awarding us the Operational Excellence Award, which speaks to specifically the transactional side of the business. So this is the portal management, any changes, pricing, pricing being correct and precise in our pricing models and what we deliver, and just basically making life easier for you and taking you out of the Microsoft business and letting you do what you do best, which is your business. So Microsoft has decided that operationally, we're best of breed there. I think this is more to me than hopefully to you than just a brag slide. When we say we're the fastest growing Microsoft partner, when you consider that across the LSP community, Microsoft is pretty much level set, some of the price models, we're all kind of playing within $1 or $2 of each other. Well, your growth depends on your ability to execute everything that I'm talking about. So a rapidly growing Microsoft partner as opposed to someone who's losing some share in the market, that speaks to our ability to walk our talk. And we're very proud of that, and we're going to continue to see that acceleration and growth. Kind of the how behind the what is basically our investment and our increased investment within our Microsoft practice. I had said earlier, one of your expectations should be that even if you've got a partner who, kind of knows the reach and range and knows the Microsoft licensing and Microsoft solutions piece, if they don't have the delivery mechanisms to get that to you in a timely manner and a correct, and have it be accurate and correct, it's no good. Much of the $50 million that we've put into our practice over the last 24 months has been with human capital. The reality is we've got some competition in the marketplace that have done a phenomenal job with some self-service and do-it-yourself tools, and they've been useful to some. But at the end of the day, our choice has been to put our investment into people, into accreditations, into back-end processes, and in our services programs. And it's not that when we do have a considerable strength with some of the do-it-yourself and some of the self-service pieces, but Microsoft, again, going back to that kind of that rapid change, kind of pace that they're on, it almost makes it a ground game and forces partners to really, if they want to do it well, they want to do it to customer satisfaction, to put those resources in place that can deliver to you. So that kind of brings, kind of setting all that up to discuss going forward our Microsoft Complete program, which this is our own intellectual property. This is a program that was not prescribed to us by Microsoft, but something we developed to deliver an end-to-end solution throughout the Microsoft lifecycle. It involves us helping you envision and transact and implement and deploy and manage all of your Microsoft solutions. And I'm going to go forward and talk specifically on how we do that, but I will go ahead and say that again, thinking about current experience or past experience, a lot of I'm presenting to you four unique pillars all working together that have to take place to successfully navigate Microsoft these days. And unfortunately, we tend to live, sometimes we tend to live in this very transactional mode. So I want to broaden that out and explain in detail how we do that. So it starts with kind of where we are. And again, the decision, to kind of invest in human capital and resources along with that has been to put people, where the business is. It's a common practice for us to, spend time with our customers, 2 and 3 times every half. We have a program, coincidentally called, internal program called T36, which is basically 36 individual touch points that we have decided are necessary to provide a customer throughout the life of agreement. If you take a 3-year agreement, that means we're talking to you about once per month. The regional focus really has been because most of the times when, and this is beyond anecdotal, this is well documented, customers change channel partners because they weren't getting the relational value on site that they were expecting from their partner. So we've put people in the regions where we're expected to be, and all of our resources are within a half day's drive or a day's drive from your office, ready to sit down and help you not only develop and implement and work through your Microsoft lifecycle. So I want to kind of, give more detail on what that team looks like. So within the 250 resources that we have, from day one of you, doing, and trusting us with your Microsoft business, you've got this group, at your disposal. Starting with the software sales experts or solutions experts, those are the most locally based, probably most customer facing. You can expect those people to manage pretty much all aspects of the agreement, but you can expect to be seeing them, like I said, a couple times every half at least. From there, we've got our solutions and technical experts, and I want to be really clear here that these aren't licensing folks, these are just the folks that are going to be helping you envision and design and plan. And what's probably most impressive about this group is that their knowledge and expertise really extends just beyond the Microsoft stack. Microsoft touches so many different areas of an organization's information technology that they have to know how one emerging Microsoft technology could impact the other. So you'll see that strength immediately. But primarily they're focused on a lot of the emerging cloud technologies coming from Microsoft and helping you design a plan for Azure or Office 365 implementation. Our licensing specialists, so those are, I kind of mentioned earlier, those are the folks that are at all times available to you via phone or email. Quick questions around needing a quote or needing a price comparison or anything you should need throughout the life of the agreement, they're available to you. The next two kind of speak to the strength that I've only touched on at this point, but which is our professional services arm, particularly software asset management. And I'm going to spend a couple minutes here just because our approach to software asset management is not a kind of addendum to our Microsoft practice. It is part of our Microsoft practice, as ingrained as any of these other Microsoft specialists that you see in front of you. The reason why is because we don't feel like it's enough for us to leave it to the customer and say, all right, you figure out where some of your compliance gaps are and where your shortfalls are or where you may be over or under indexed on your licensing, and then we'll help you get compliant. We'll provide the licenses and we'll kind of help you remediate. We go well beyond that and into a fully developed and very flexible software asset management program in which we can do simple remediation if that's what's needed, all the way out to doing a collection of your current installs against what you own, and then helping you remediate and anything in between, and even at the client level and at the server level. So that's significant value add we have within our team. With respect to the professional managed services, I think you'll find a lot of times that we have, or that the partner community, sometimes has the need to go out to third-party resources for help with certain technologies. Going back to a few slides ago, I mentioned accreditations and certifications. What part of that $50 million investment has been not only hiring and staffing and resourcing, with PCM badged employees, but also providing them the accreditation and certification necessary to deliver the professional managed services. I also want to call out that this is well in front of deployment and implementation. We have evaluations and assessments and collection kits that our services team has developed just in the design and planning stage. I also want to mention that a strength of ours is, we are in constant communication with Microsoft. It's not uncommon for one of your software sales experts to negotiate with Microsoft on your behalf to get funding from Microsoft to enable some of these services to take place. And if you think about it like this, Microsoft obviously has an invested interest in seeing some of their emerging, particularly their emerging cloud technology, continue to grab hold in the market. So obviously they would be more than willing to fund some of that motion. So even if it's not published, and even if it's not something they put out, specifically, it's always incumbent on the partner to be researching that on your behalf and delivering that to you before presenting you with a statement of work. So, when we kind of when we kind of look at the four pillars, in some more detail, and again, we talked about envisioning first. This is going to involve, I can let you read for yourself, but I mean, this is going to kind of involve any of our whiteboarding sessions. You should expect during an envisioning session, the one popular outcome would be a 3, 6, and 9 year picture for whatever solution we come up with, what the licensing implications may be for that over 9 years. Of course, it gets tricky to predict Microsoft over a year, let alone 9, but to the best of our ability, we at least give you the, kind of a range of possibilities. And again, designing solutions in and around the Microsoft stack. So I want to be real clear here that the strength of our team is, yes, we know Microsoft licensing and solutions and the technology. We also know how that may impact other areas of IT, and we can talk to that. So again, it's one of those areas where we have those resources in-house to deliver to you. But your expectation from us can be that before we do anything of any size, that we're doing an evaluation, that we're creating a plan with you and giving you the design. With transacting, I think I may have understated this earlier. Because I said, that's where a lot of partners live, and that's only where they live. I think, just to add to that, when we talk about contract negotiation specifically, this is one of those areas where a lot of customers don't realize, and we've learned with our experience, that Microsoft is actually surprisingly flexible when you're advocating for your customer, obviously to mutual benefit. And an example, of some negotiation points on a contract might be price increase caps. So an addendum or an amendment that might restrict Microsoft over a 6-year period to a certain percentage price increase. As the subscription model and cloud model becomes more popular, there's true down indexing and allotment and allowance for the a client to actually true down his his seat count as needs of his business change. And that wasn't the case just a few years ago with on-prem perpetual licensing. You bought it day one, and we really didn't do anything with it except for true up or increase until the end of year 3. That's no longer the case in a lot of situations. And then just if-then scenarios. So negotiating, on behalf of the business, says, hey, if this company makes an acquisition in the next 2 years, can we put in a piece within this agreement that allows for that, so it's not costing them an arm and a leg. These aren't just bullet points I'm giving you. We have real-world examples of these successful negotiations and why customers are so happy with us and like that we approach it that way. With the next two around product and agreement activation and onboarding, Microsoft has done a really good job with providing self-service and do-it-yourself tools and allowing visibility into a Microsoft estate. I think they've come up short, woefully short, in training and developing clients how to access their own estate. We could argue whether that's by design or whether that's something that's been short-sighted. Either way, that's very much a part of our transacting process, is making sure you understand where you can go see and make changes and do some of the administrative tasks yourself. The other thing we like to do that I think is kind of unique within activation and onboarding is we like for you to add us as at least a viewer into your portal. So if you were to shoot us an IM or give us a phone call or an email and say, hey, I want to have a quick look at this, we've got the same view that you do. And also when we're when there is a problem, we're able to see that. So think of it kind of as our process there. Kind of, we're asking you to enlist us as kind of a contracted Microsoft licensing experts. Not many people have licensed professionals on staff. And again, with the program and platform flexibility, that's kind of speaks to negotiation, but again, it's just one of those areas where when we say our customer-facing software solutions executives have an average 15 years in dealing with Microsoft directly, that means we know where to find the benefits and where to advocate on your behalf. Anyway, it's got to make sense to Microsoft. It's got to be something they're amenable to, but we know where to find those I don't want to say loopholes, but those areas where you can get the most benefit. And we're talking about getting the most out of your partnership. With implementation and management, again, to the number I'm not sure, but I want to say it's something like 65 to 70% of Azure customers don't deploy within the first 6 months of their purchase. And trust me, and I think you know this, you're going to spend the money and make the monetary commitment for Azure, you're going to want it deployed. So it's not by choice. I think the reason why that statistic is what it is and why it's so high is just the complexity of it. And again, it's one of those areas where Microsoft has done a great job, particularly over the last 18 months, putting flexible price models in for Azure, but customers kind of been left on their own as far on the deployment side. So our professional services, we've got a comprehensive, very robust, very agile team ready to help with deployment. And on the management side of this, I want to again kind of go back to our SAM practice, and so with implementation and management, kind of after point of sale, the idea with our software asset management is anything and everything from, I've seen examples where a customer just wanted us once a year to look at their outputs. They had their own collection kits and tools. They just wanted to look at their installs and provide them a simple remediation. I've also seen customers, and know firsthand customers, that want us to come in and deploy agents across every one of their qualified OSs and do a collection count and provide remediation, and then everything in between. So we don't have a one-size-fits-all software asset management tool. It's really just meeting you where you are. Any one of you can call me today, and say, we think we know what we have installed. We're not sure what we actually own, because there's been so many changes. We've had people in and out, and we've made acquisitions. We can help you with that. Or conversely, you could say, we have, and I've seen large businesses really not have the tool sets they need to say accurately, this is what we have, this is what we have installed on our machines, and we're not sure where we are from a governance and compliance standpoint. And by the way, this isn't just from Microsoft. This is all the software titles we're able to do that with. So when we go, talk through these 4 pillars, the other thing I want to be very clear about is that these aren't happening in a vacuum, step 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll go back to the T36 piece I mentioned earlier. We have 36 unique touch points. Some of them deal with envisioning and planning. Some of them deal with implementation and managing. Some of them are on the transactional side. But what it means is all these things are happening all at once with the number of resources that I mentioned earlier. So it's not just where you're hearing from us, at true up and an anniversary or renewal date. Once you're partnering with us, you're hearing from us quite a bit, and proactively. So kind of coming to you and saying, hey, we need to do this, and obviously it's at your discretion. If it's something, if you want to spend the 2 hours doing a whiteboard session on Office 365, that's entirely up to you, but it's available to you. And I think going back to the success that we've had, which has been remarkable and well noted and documented in the market, it really is because, it has nothing to do with price. Generally, everybody's accepted and understood that Microsoft's kind of holding that key. It's really the level of service and execution before and after point of sale that's differentiating us in the market. I think, Noman, we can leave it there unless we have any questions.
Thank you, Wes. That was a great presentation. If you still have any questions which you haven't put in the questions box, please share them now, and we will relay them over to our speaker. Okay, Wes, the first question I have is, why has PCM decided to invest in Microsoft?
Well, first of all, I want to call out again, the investment has been largely made in pre-sales, planning, operational, professional services, and lifecycle management. So drawing a contrast to those areas, those functional areas, drawing a contrast to just licensing specialists, the reason why we've made that investment is, Microsoft has made such a sea change from its, from on-premise perpetual model to cloud and or subscription model, that it's created a lot of flexibility, but it's also added a lot of questions. So thinking bigger than Microsoft in my own practice, as a solutions provider, when we consider that 98% of our customers are transacting with Microsoft in some way, shape, or form, it's irresponsible for us to not make the investment we need to make to be able to answer those questions. So short way to answer that is Microsoft becoming more complex, creating a lot of options, but a lot of different, questions that customers maybe used to be able to answer on their own. Now they can. We're delivering that as a benefit of just being a solutions provider.
Thank you, Wes. Next question I have is, what do I need to do to schedule an introduction meeting on my Microsoft Business?
Certainly. So if you are currently working with a PCM representative, we've got an engagement model prescribed to them that they know kind of where to find us in the right region. So if you reach out to them directly, they can get in touch with their Microsoft executive. Or if you're not currently working with a PCM representative, certainly you can reach out to me directly, and either we'll be having a conversation or I can route that to the appropriate resources.
Thank you. The next question I have is, do you have any programs that will help provide an analysis of my Microsoft spend and business?
Certainly. So at the most basic level, we can do a Microsoft licensing statement, a Microsoft licensing history review, where we can pull a report of all of your volume license purchases through Microsoft and do a few things with that. We can look for, again, compliance and possible compliance gaps and issues and provide solutions there. The other thing we could do is simply say, okay, you're buying it this way now. Let me show you a good, better, best model for now or in the future. But beyond just the as-is licensing side of this, we can also come in, and assess your server workloads. We can look at compute, storage, bandwidth, and model alternate on-prem solutions. We can model Azure solutions, certainly. We can look at your SQL environment and do SQL analytics of what that might look like on our different licensing model. So yeah, the short way to answer that question is, as an overview, just with licensing, we can certainly take that snapshot in a day and go over that with you in an hour. But then with specific workloads, we've got a number of different analysis and optimization, collection, and resources we can provide.
Thank you, Wes. I cannot see any more questions in the questions box. So with that, many thanks to you, Wes, for a great presentation, and thank you all for joining us today. Please be sure to check our website www.onpoint.com/webinars for upcoming webinars and on-demand webinars. If you still have any questions after the webinar, please be sure to email us at amec@onpoint.com or amec@pcm.com. So with that, goodbye and have a great day.